Welcome to this episode of Oral History. Today, we will be talking to a U.S. Navy veteran. The Navy was founded in 1776 during the Revolutionary War. Today, it is made up of almost 500,000 personnel, 430 ships, and over 3,700 aircraft. During today's interview, we talk to former Lieutenant Commander Professor Dave Quirk about his experiences as a U.S. Navy officer. Let's start off with, why did you join the Navy?
Well, that's a really good question. My dad served in the Air Force back in World War II. At the time, when I was looking at jobs and the job market, there really wasn't a lot to do at that time, getting out of high school. So a friend of mine was actually applied to the Air Force Academy, and he suggested that I try to do the same. So figured go as an officer, better time, right? Tried, do the Air Force Academy, SAT scores. I'd go high on one and low on the other. Good English, bad math. Good math, bad English. Finally, didn't work out, but a Navy recruiter called my friend and said, "Hey, would you like to join the Navy?" He goes, "Well, no, but I have a friend, Dave Quirk, who might be interested." So the recruiter called me up and talked to me about it. I met up with him, and lo and behold, a couple months later, I enlisted in the Navy. And then from there, it was the reserves at the time, so it was about 8 weeks of boot camp, 4 weeks of follow-up training. And then as I got picked up from the airport on the way back from boot camp, my buddy says, "Hey, we need a fourth roommate up at Florida State. Would you like to be the fourth?" I'm like, "Let's go." So threw a mattress in the back of a U-Haul, drove up to Tallahassee, and there they had a ROTC program with the Navy. So I was like, well, I was drilling as a reservist in my Cracker Jacks, enlisted, and during the week I was a midshipman. 4 years later, I graduated as a commissioned officer.
So in the early time of when you were in the Navy, you mentioned that you had been in Desert Storm.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like, and can you just give me a general sense of like what Desert Storm was?
Okay, so Desert Shield leading up to, Desert Shield was the buildup of forces over there. Desert Storm was the actual incursion where we actually went after Saddam Hussein. So I got commissioned in 89. I went through training in 90, and of course Desert Storm was 90, 91, late. We deployed in December, and we were at war in January, and I'm brand new. 3 o'clock in the morning, and we go to general quarters on the ship. And needless to say, it was, my adrenaline was up. First time at sea, in a foreign place, about 104 degrees at the time, and 3 o'clock in the morning, and we're getting ready to go. Whatever may happen. So
what was
scary.
What was your ship's role in the actual operation?
Was a LKA, landing craft amphibious. We were actually responsible for sending Marines to the beach. So we were the Navy contingent, but we had Marines on board. And then we'd offload tanks, trucks, half-tracks, Humvees, things like that, to the beach to aid in the Marine assault.
So you've been in Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and you've also been in Desert Fox.
Desert Fox, yes.
So can you give me a comparison of Desert Storm to Desert Fox?
Yes. So I was in a different role then. So Desert Shield and Storm, I was amphibious support, providing basically transportation for the Marines to the beach and providing cover fire for them. When I came back to Desert Fox, I was in a combatant. I was on a frigate, and we were anti-air warfare. So we were providing cover, air cover, for the cruisers and the aircraft carrier that was providing a strike package. So they were bombing, aircraft coming in, bombing, sending Tomahawks. And while you're doing that, you're kind of wide open. So we tried to make sure that enemy aircraft or submarines or anything didn't approach the battle group. So again, we were protecting a different type of asset, the carrier, in that respect.
And so you were a lieutenant commander.
Mm-hmm.
So
Finally, at the end, right?
You were pretty high up on some of your ships.
Middle management, yes.
So what was it like to know that you could potentially be in charge of the ship?
Awesome. It was good. I mean, that's the goal, right? Command at sea. At one point on the frigate, I was third in command of that. So if the captain of the XO went down, I'd have to step up. We've probably all seen the movie Battleship, right? Where the lieutenant takes charge, right? If you're all left. But never happened, thank God. We never had to go through that. But it was good. It was a very good working relationship. We got a lot accomplished. Had a lot of fun on that one deployment. Everybody came out highly trained, and we fulfilled our mission of keeping the waterways safe.
So as part of the Navy, you travel the world.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it like to be traveling the world as a U.S. Navy personnel and to meet people from other countries?
Well, that was, so I've been stationed in Norfolk, Virginia, and went across to the Persian Gulf through the Mediterranean that way. I've also been stationed in San Diego and went across to the Persian Gulf that way. Some port visits, they loved us. And some port visits, we were there and they didn't exactly love us. I won't go into details of who was who, but for the most part, Liberty ports, they welcomed the United States. They knew that we were over there on peacekeeping missions, and they felt safer when we were there. Got a lot of people mention that in conversation. But as far as traveling the world, highly recommend it. Fantastic to understand different cultures. It was, I might be snobby, but it was great to get back to the United States where there's rules and, street signs and stoplights and things like that. A lot of the places we visited were still gravel roads, and there was, people drove kind of crazy. It was good to get back to the United States.
So you served 22 years in the Navy,
Mm-hmm.
4 years enlisted as an officer, or enlisted, and 18 as an officer.
Yep, correct.
And so you finished in charge of the U.S. Navy Reserve here in Oregon?
Yeah, I was commanding officer of the Reserve Center here in Eugene, and also did a tour of the commanding officer down in Central Point of the reserves.
All right.
In between those two tours, I was in charge of, I was director of readiness and mobilization. So just before 9/11, I took over command of the Eugene Reserve Center in July of '01. And of course, when 9/11 took place, the reserves became a major contingent in backfilling and augmenting forces to go fight the war overseas. So a lot of the active duty Navy that was here in the States got called up and deployed overseas to fight the war on terrorism over there. Reservists filled in and backfilled those positions. I was responsible for training those folks. So I had my own reserve center here with about 500 folks. And then when I was up in Everett, Washington in the command, I had 8 reserve centers and 4,500 reservists I was responsible for, making sure they were ready to go. So awesome responsibility, but a lot of fun.
And so now you are a professor of business here at
Yes.
Northwest Christian.
In management, yes.
Would you say that your time in the Navy has helped you in your current life?
Absolutely, sure. Yeah, if you can deal with the stress of deploying overseas and being in combat situations, and at one point I had about 150 sailors under my command at sea. Evaluations, drama, details, all sorts of stuff like that. It teaches you quickly how to become an officer and how to maintain the material readiness of the ship, how to take care of your folks, facilities. There's a lot of responsibilities. I always recommend everybody spend at least 4 years in the military. It's just a good, eye-opening experience, and you're on your own, and it was a lot. I wouldn't change it. If I had a chance to be reborn and live a different path, I wouldn't change anything. I'd do it all over again. It was a great time. It was awesome.
Thank you very much for your time today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.